I've sold on Amazon for over 8 years now. I've hit 7-figure revenue in both the UK and the USA marketplaces. I've built a 7-figure VA agency and I've managed over 88 VAs directly and have generated over $10 million in sales. And I've helped over 500 sellers scale with over 1,000 VAs. I'm going to share with you the 15 rules which I wish I'd known on day one. Principles that can take you from 0 to 7 figures. And rule 14 is going to feel crazy and it's going to prove to you whether you've truly nailed rules 1 to 3. It's going to make you very scared. After 12 months, who do you think speaks better? Someone who dabbles in Spanish, German, and Japanese, learning those, or the person who drills Spanish every single day? Most people would instantly see the problem. Splitting your focus means you are not going to be able to develop your skill set quickly enough. Well, selling on Amazon is no different. For example, you have reselling and private label, drop shipping, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, brand direct, wholesale, exclusive. Now, we see this all the time with new sellers. They're going to start one model. It might be retail arbitrage, quickly move to online arbitrage, and then eventually go to wholesale before they've even really started taking any good money. Whereas instead, you should be sticking to one model, getting that all of your attention. Fewer moving parts within your business means that you are going to get mastery better at what you're doing. By doing less means that you can actually get a higher level of competence quicker, and by being better means you make more money. And that's what we want, right? Now, the one thing to think about here is cash compounds. So if you're focusing on different models, you're spinning lots of different plates, and every time you make a mistake, that's costing you cash. But if you're getting better at one model, not making lots of mistakes, then you can reinvest that money quicker, and it means that you're going to be able to compound your money much faster. And that momentum snowballs, and that builds depth into your business and expertise, and you can now start scaling your business, which we'll talk about in a minute, freeing you up to explore other things. You should not be changing business models until you have A, quit your job, paid yourself, B, hired a team to run the business well, and then C, done everything you can to grow that current business model before you think about moving on to the next one. Pick one Amazon business model and master it before thinking about another one. You had two situations. One, a room full of Amazon expert sellers, and another one, a room where you're on your own. Do you think that you would get further ahead if you were with expert sellers or on your own? Well, I think the answer is obvious. If you're spending the time with the expert sellers, the masters who've done it, been there, and know what they're doing, you are going to learn so much faster, so much quicker, and they're going to help you skip the mistakes. Now, that happens in real life. We have similar types of rooms: Facebook communities, Discords, school communities, Reddit threads. All these things are going to help you. By spending about 30 minutes a day asking real questions in these communities, sharing your wins, also your failures, and what you've learned from them is going to build up your reputation in those communities. And you can speak to the experts, and in turn, they will share with you the expertise that they've seen as well. That is going to help you to scale so much more. This is basically free mentoring. Doing it on your own is going to cost you, not only in time, but probably in money through mistakes. Now, the key takeaway here, plug yourself into active communities, interact daily with them, is probably going to be the cheapest and the fastest form of coaching you're ever going to get. What separates Delta Force, special operators, the elite from the regular infantry? They both shoot the same rifles, but special forces fire thousands of more rounds downrange every single day. They are just better at the basics, the fundamentals of aiming, shooting, and reloading. So when they come to advanced strategies, they already know what to do. They don't need to think about it at all, and they're so much faster. And so how do we attribute this towards selling on Amazon? The basics is sourcing, deal analysis, and getting your product shipped into Amazon and sold. Doing that over and over and over again is just going to level up your game around reviewing deals. The more deals you can review, the better you're going to get, and measure your speed and accuracy and get faster and faster and faster. Tighten the loop, repeat. Mastery in deal analysis is going to pay off no ends to the whole future of your business growing it forward. And that is one of the best compound decisions you can make in your business. Fewer decisions of purchasing mean that you're going to lose less money or make better buys when you come to sell. Now, the key takeaway here is be relentless in your repetition of the fundamentals. Sourcing, analysis, and the operations of the business is the bedrock that lets you scale, while other people get too caught up in doing shiny objects and you just know what you're doing. Have you ever spent weeks hunting for great deals only to discover the months later that your bank balance has barely moved? You've probably read it on the forums, and what I've seen so many FBA times. Most newcomers obsess over buying low, but forget the second part, selling high. Every purchase they make is really a prediction of what the future sell price will be. But if you're not predicting right and you keep making that same play, you're going to never make any money. And the real game to play is about running postmortems. Checking your products after they've sold, spending time every day to review what did the product sell for? What did I think it was going to sell for? Did I achieve my margin? Why is it better? Why is it worse? Doing that post-mortem process is going to be game-changing for you because you're going to spot the patterns of whether it be higher fees, increased competitions, that supplier that is crashing, or maybe a weakening demand. You're going to refine the business model, which basically means you now understand how it works. And those insights are going to tighten up your purchasing decisions, that prediction, so that you are now going to be getting the results you're expecting, not months of no growth at all. And that's the one thing we don't want. The key takeaway here is relentless, honest review of past buys to understand how you can upgrade your profit prediction engine. Would you trust a pilot who's never read the plane's manual or been through any training? I'm sure the answer is no. Why skip the manuals for the tools that you're currently using, whether it be Keeper, repricing software, or maybe SellerAmp for your calculator tool? A single wrong fee, maybe it might be weight or your prep center costs in the SellerAmp, can slice your expected profit in half. A misconfigured repricing rule can race you to the bottom while you're sleeping, losing you thousands of dollars in profits. Yes, it's already happened. I've seen it myself, and I've seen it with my friends as well. Spending the time focusing on understanding the tools you've got is key to growing the business. We all just want to jump in and figure out how it works, but you know what? Stop driving on emotion. Start taking the logical approach. Watch the YouTube videos, review what's going on, and actually see the output of it. Double, triple check what you're doing in settings, outputs with other people in that community we talked about earlier. By spot checking your outputs and understanding what's actually happening is going to change the game for you. The key takeaway here, tools only multiply profitability when you invest time to understand how they work and actually set them up right. Set them up wrong, profitability goes down. Let's come back to that pilot. If a pilot flew a plane with only half the cockpit cages working and you had the choice to join that plane or not, would you feel confident or not? A simple answer here is saying, when a pilot is flying, they have many dials and gauges to help them understand what's happening. And if we're going to cover up half of them, we're probably suspecting that they won't have the full picture. And so if something's going wrong, they won't know about it until it really goes wrong. And that same thing is probably happening in your business right now. Even a simple online arbitrage business, which everyone talks about, buy low, sell high, has so many points of failure that it can cause big problems to cash flow, profitability, and even getting your account shut down. This might be supplier delays, prep center backlogs, stranded FBA units, capital tied up in unsold products. If you are not tracking all the areas of your business, you are surely in for a surprise, and especially around the Q4 periods. Now, in my business, some of the metrics that we track, which might help you to really get an understanding of what to look at, and we track way more than this, are things such as how much we're spending per week, how much we've got available to spend, what percentage of the available spend we'll spend, what is our estimated gross profit, and then once we've sold those units, what is our actual gross profit, and what is our average sale price, what's our ROI, what's our margin, what's our return rate. We look at every single one of these metrics every single week for the previous week, and we are tracking them to see how they change. We're also looking at other metrics such as our inventory. How much inventory do we currently have in the warehouse in cash value? How much do we have on the way from the suppliers to the warehouse? How much do we have currently on the way to Amazon? How much is in Amazon? How much is coming back from Amazon because it's unfulfillable? How much is stuck in the warehouse in unfulfillable? I know people with over 6 figures worth of stock in unfillable. That's $100,000 plus of stock they just cannot sell, which is crazy. You've got to be on top of this. I even know the time it takes to get from my supplier to Amazon. I know how much it takes my supplier to get to sold, averaged out every week. I know all these numbers. Why? Because I need to track them, and I have learned the lesson that if I don't, somewhere it will get stuck and I will lose a lot of money. Now, the key takeaway here for you is you want to have a fully instrumented dashboard to understand your business, to detect delays, any leaks, any problems, and anything that's going to kill your profit before they cause you a big problem and crash the plane. How long do you think an NFL team would last if the league rewrote the playbook mid-season and the coach never bothered to read the update? Amazon does exactly that. Constantly they are tweaking their policies, their rules, their gating, their fee structure. The platform cares about 2 things: the customer and Amazon. And you are neither. Spot the shift early. You've got to be looking at how Amazon is changing, and not only how they change now, but why they're doing what they're doing and the way it's going. For example, in my business, we saw that in beauty, which we were doing a lot of about 2 years ago, they started to hard gate a lot of the brands, meaning you could never get ungated. So what did we do? We transitioned a lot of our stock out of beauty into other areas. We just saw beauty was too dangerous with too many brands getting gated. It was something that we did not want to be involved in. So see how Amazon's changing what's going on. And I'll give you a really good example. Previously, even a couple of weeks ago, a big seller doing about 50 million a year, we heard was shut down for 10 days, costing them millions of dollars because they did not follow Amazon's rules and they got shut down for it. Now, this is what we think, but the idea is that this is going to cost you millions when it comes to Amazon saying, we don't care, we're shutting your business down. Key takeaway, you've got to treat Amazon and Seller Central updates like mandatory playbooks and adapt fast, or you are going to lose the game and your business. If not, try and be ahead of it. If you had a factory right now that churned out $10 bills, but it costs you $11 to create that $10 bill, how many do you want to produce? Well, interesting enough, Tom Boyer, I think that's right, the founder of Quest Nutrition, who sold it for $1 billion, says it is the best thing that I've ever heard, and I completely agree with. Never throw capital or labor at an inefficient system. It will eat them up and it will give you nothing in return. Now, every Amazon seller understands the two ways to grow this business are find more deals and buy more deals, which is generally going to be VAs and capital lending. Now, in our business, we scale with that. And just like the government, if you throw more labor, people, and more capital at the government, do you think you're going to get a better service for cheaper? No. If anything, we've seen it gets worse and worse and worse. So inefficient businesses do not take capital and labor very well. So you need to understand your business, you need to understand how well it's running and build an efficient system. This is so important before starting to scale with capital and labor. Do not scale an inefficient business because you will just build a problem. And I know that from my own mistakes, and I've seen it so many times right now in government as well. Now, you might be asking, how do you actually bring this to life in reality? Well, the simple fact is numbers are everything. We talked about measuring everything before, but you want to make sure these numbers matter. So the key metrics we look at in my business, gross margin. This is the profit you generate after COGS, Amazon fees, prep, and ship. I believe you should not be scaling until you've hit over 15% gross margin. Now, if you're using a warehouse, that should probably be higher because you should include the prep and ship fees. Now, also as well, you want to make sure you're not just getting a good gross margin, you're actually shifting stock as well. So there's another metric that I really like to track called sell-through rate. This is in Amazon Seller Central, and you'll see it as part of your inventory dashboard. I believe you should have a sell-through rate of more than 2. This basically means you're selling your stock every 45 days in Amazon. If you're below that, you're holding dead stock. You shouldn't be doing it. Get above 2. And if you achieve those 2 numbers, then I probably think you're in a place where you can think about scaling. Now, when we do it, we also measure everything, which I'll talk again in a minute. Now, the key takeaway here is scaling only multiplies what already exists. And make sure that it is profit and not waste. Would you pour fuel into a car that leaks a gallon every single mile? Now, this is the exact same thing we have when we think about taking out capital leverage. When you are taking out loans, credit cards, debt, anything like that, you want to make sure that you're investing that money into a great business. And you want to make sure you've got some great guardrails in place before you're doing it. And just like I talked about a minute ago, the 2 key metrics we're looking at, 15% gross margin and over 2 sell-through rate. If you do not have those, getting capital leverage is going to cause that money you're getting to just disappear and cause you big problems. The key takeaway here, leverage only works when you have healthy margins and a fast sell-through rate. Prove your machine can repay the fuel you're adding into it, not feeding it, and you're going to lose it down the drain. Okay, here's a classic one I see all the time, and everyone does this, and I strongly disagree with it. Just imagine this situation. You have spent 4 weeks drafting a job description, posting it online, shifting through 200 CVs, running 1 round of interviews, then doing another round of interviews, doing onboarding, and then doing 2 weeks worth of training, only to find out that this person you've just hired is probably not the right person. How likely do you think you are going to want to fire them and to do that whole process again? By the way, when you did that process, you did not get paid because you took time out of your business, which was finding profitable products, obviously, and you were trying to hire this staff. Most people would not want to be hiring another member of staff during this time. And so what do? They keep the VA on. And this is really a bad decision. This is like buying bad stock because it ain't going to help your business grow. You need to cut your losses and move on. Now, that time sink that I'm talking about right there of how much time it takes to hire is the one reason why I don't think you hiring a VA yourself is a good answer. I think you should probably pay a couple of hundred, if not $1,000, $2,000 to find an agency. They hire a VA for you, which also allow you to replace, because you need a great person, and finding good people takes time and you want to replace them. Doing it yourself is so hard. There's a reason why founders have internal recruitment teams or even external agencies. They don't do it themselves on bulk because it's so much hard work. And for you, using someone else to do it is going to help you out. Now, the key takeaway here is outsource your recruitment. Protect your focus. Focus on what makes money. Hiring doesn't make money right now. Keep making the money and pay someone else to do the hiring. When you have more free time, sure, do it then. But right now, just get someone else with the protections and the guarantees that you can replace. Now, imagine this situation. Would you keep a prep center on that ships to the wrong destination every other week? I'm sure the answer would be no. But let me ask you the question. Why would you keep a VA on who can't follow basic instructions? I've seen it so many times. And this costs just as much as a bad prep center. If you, for example, go to your VA and say, hey, I don't want you to find me any more Walmart deals, and that VA comes back tomorrow with Walmart deals, what are you going to do? You're going to be absolutely annoyed, but you're probably not going to fire them because it's so much hassle. You've got to understand that you are not here to get people to try and understand what you're saying. They either get it or they don't, and if not, you replace them. Now, there are two key metrics I look at with VAs. One, can they follow simple instructions? Don't give me Walmart. Tomorrow, they come out of Walmart, they're gone. Number two, work ethic. This is specifically one of the key metrics we look at is how many hours per week they work. When I first started my Amazon business, did I work 40 hours a week? Hell no. I worked 50, 60, 70, probably 80. Now, I don't expect my VA to work 80, but I sure as hell expect them to work more than 40 hours a week. And if I look at their time tracking and see they work 40.02 in a week, I'm going to be like, do you really want this job? Do you really want to make the bonus and the extras? Because I don't mind if you want a job, that's fine. And I'm not here to say that they're bad people, but I only want to work with people who are hungry to make this business great, earn great money, and grow. And so therefore, I'd expect to see 45, 50, 55 hours a week. The key takeaway for you guys right now, nice is optional. Results and hustle are mandatory. Now, while we're on the talk of VAs, let me ask you a question. How long can you afford to wait and see if the new VA is profitable? 6 weeks? 12 weeks? Every extra day that hides compounding losses is going to cause your business problems. So what do you need to know? Think about your business in regards to what is the result you're looking for and track that pipeline backwards to understand where red flags appear on that journey so you can react not within months, not weeks, but ideally days. Now, in my business, what does this mean? Fundamental level, when we are working with VAs, we ultimately want them to make us profit, gross profit of the products they're selling. So that's the goal we're looking for. Now, before that, we can look at the revenue they generate. We can look at how much estimated profit of the deals they're purchasing they're going to make. We can look at how much spend they're doing. We can even look at things like deals submitted. Now, we even go further than that. We even actively manage or look at number of URLs visited every single week. We look at number of ASINs reviewed every single week. And why? Because what we have recognized is that if a VA works 40.2 hours a week and they look at 1,000 URLs in a week, and I'm normally looking at 10,000 URLs a week, I don't care how many hours you're working, you're just not doing the activity that is going to generate enough results. And it's because of that, I know that you'll never get to the profitability problem or the outcome, which is going to take weeks and months to get to. And I'm going to be like, maybe they might get it. No, I'm not going to be like that at all. I'm going to be like, your activity is so low, you're just going to be impossible. So therefore, I'm either going to say, get the activity up or get gone. So it allows me to react much quicker. Now, the key takeaway for you here is measure early, measure often, and measure everything. Small data points prevent big money leaks later on. Now, the final thing I'll say about VAs, I remember when my VA, my best VA, was finding $5,000 per week in purchases. And that was a big push. And we got her there and we're like, wow, this is amazing. But you know what? She doesn't do 5,000 right now. She does 30,000 a week in purchases. And why did she get to this new level? Because we never accepted that 5K was excellent. We always asked, how can we do more? Just like you ask yourself how you can grow this business, you too should be building that culture within your business of continuous improvements, fostering tweaks, using new tools, sourcing techniques, adapting to what you're learning, faster calculations, and even AI assistance to help you grow your business. Analyze, upgrade, and improve your business and your people and provide stretch targets. The key takeaway: profit compounds when both people and processes keep leveling up. Never settle for last quarter's results. We've always got to be growing. Now, I said to you I was going to share something to you that you probably wouldn't like. And this is it. If I dug into your P&L right now, looked at your buy sheet, your warehouse inventory and how it's moving stock, maybe even your repricer settings, do you think I could at least spot one opportunity that could improve your business and make it better, make more profits? If you answered no, you're kidding yourself. Now, large Facebook groups are great for motivation and sharing it, but what you really want? A really small group of friends, 3 to 5 people who are your mastermind. They are operators. They share everything. They know exactly what's going on in the industry. You probably know each other's storefronts and you share guides of what's happening. But within that 3 to 5, you're probably going to have 1, maybe 2 people who share absolutely everything. And I mean buy sheets, P&Ls, repricers. They probably have logins to all your software so they can see it. Why? Because these people are going to look at your business with a critical eye. They're going to go, how the hell do you do that? I don't know how to do that. Why are you achieving such a great result? Where did you source that from? They're going to spot every little thing which makes the biggest difference in your business. And you're going to know where you're really good. But also in turn, they're going to spot all your problems. And so therefore, they're going to tell you, you're rubbish at this, that was a bad buy, you've got a really bad setting up here. And they're going to help fix all those little problems you didn't even know existed or you're too lazy to look at. Now, in turn, you'll do the same for them, learning from their successes and also helping them with mistakes. It's this real intimacy which helps you to grow. And I'll share a great example. Dan 1000 ASINs had a warehouse, and in that warehouse is him and another seller, 2 separate accounts, and he grew to 12 million with this. They basically knew everyone's business, they knew their suppliers, they were even bulk buying together. The net result, they scaled together quicker, faster, because they knew what was happening. Now, the key takeaway here is radical transparency with a micro mastermind. It's that intimacy which is going to show you where you're excellent and also where you need to improve. Now, let me ask you a final question. Would you rather sit comfortably in the middle of 3 different markets or dominate the top 1% of one? Let me ask you that question again, but this time, let me show you a distribution model of how people make money against the number of people. If we look at this graph right now, you're going to see number of people on the bottom and then how much money they make on the top. It's not evenly distributed. That very few 1% of the people who are at the very top of their game, they make so much more money. And the question I'd ask you is, do you want to sit in the middle of 3 of these graphs, or do you want to be at the very top of just 1 of these graphs? And the reason why I share this question is because this teaches you something really important. Now, I learned this lesson from a Tony Robbins Business Mastery in-person event from a guy, presenter called Keith Cunningham, and I definitely recommend checking him out. He basically built a $100 million company, lost it, went negative $100 million, bankrupt, and then rebuilt the $100 million company again. And the key thing he said to me, which I absolutely love, what's the difference between the rich and the really, really rich? The really, really rich just do less. But the less they do it way better. And what do I mean by this? One model, one market, one core process, just get really bloody good at the one thing you do. Because as we saw in those graphs, if you focus on 3 different things, you're going to be in the middle of all of them because you're not particularly great. And the results you're going to get ain't going to be that great. But if you just focus on one thing and get to the very end of that distribution model, you are going to get disproportionate returns, which is so much better than doing 3 things. And so we see it all the time with Amazon sellers. They are going into different categories, different business models, different marketplaces. And it's just so much, and they're not good enough in any one area. Now, the key takeaway here is mastery is at the far right of that distribution curve, and it far outperforms dabbling across many, many different business models. So stop pissing around. Focus on one thing. Now, I shared with you 15 top tips I wish I had known when I first started and I had followed. And it's something that I'd lived to this day. Now, the key thing I'll share with you is Getting good at the basics, I think, is the most important thing you can do. And there's one great video I recorded, which is great at the fundamentals. Remember the delta force? This is called analyzing keeper charts. And so I've got a great video here where I put all of my keeper knowledge into a very condensed video, which is going to help you. So check it out around here. Now, if you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. And hey, if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, drop your comments down below.